Government debt and government deficit are some of the most commonly used terms in all of government finance. They're also the most politically relevant, inspiring legislation and executive decisions that impact many people. Well, in today's video, we'll explain these two terms and how they actually differ. We'll discuss why governments borrow money and from whom are these funds borrowed from. We'll also cover the various causes of government deficit, as well as analyze how much is really too much debt for the government by explaining the concept of debt ceiling. So, subscribe now, and let's unpack government deficits and government debt. First of all, let's define government deficit. A deficit occurs when a government's spending exceeds its revenue. Essentially, this occurs when a government's spending on public services, infrastructure, and other government projects exceed the revenue generated by the government from taxes, fees, etc. To illustrate, let's imagine government as a household with its own income and expenses. When the government spends more money than it receives in revenue, it runs into a deficit. This deficit is therefore the difference between what the government spends and what it earns. Now, let's talk about government debt. Government debt, also known as national or sovereign debt, is incurred when the government borrows funds to pay for public services and other government projects. Government debt is essentially the total amount of money that a government owes to its creditors, including individuals, local and international institutions, as well as other governments. The key difference between government debt and government deficit lies in their timeframe and cumulative nature. A government deficit refers to a shortfall when expenditures exceed revenue in a single fiscal year, while a government debt encompasses the cumulative total of deficits and surpluses, indicating a nation's owed funds over time. What makes governments end up in a deficit? A government budget deficit is caused by a number of circumstances, such as economic downturns and rising unemployment, decreased consumer spending, increased government spending and fiscal stimulus, high interest payments and rising interest rates, demographic factors, as well as unplanned emergencies. Let's now discuss each of these causes in a bit more detail. Recessions and rising unemployment can lead to lower tax revenue and increased welfare spending. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis, many governments experienced decreased tax revenue as businesses struggled and unemployment rose, contributing to budget deficits. A decrease in consumer spending also results in less tax revenue for the government. During periods of economic uncertainty, consumers may cut back on their spending, leading to reduced sales tax revenue and exacerbating budget deficits. Governments may increase spending on public services, infrastructure, or defense to stimulate economic growth or address pressing needs. Additionally, using fiscal stimulus to lift aggregate demand can also contribute to budget deficits. During the COVID-19 pandemic, governments worldwide increased spending on healthcare, relief packages, and economic stimulus plans, leading to larger budget deficits. Governments may also have to make large interest payments on their existing debt, thus reducing the available funds for other expenses. An increase in interest rates can therefore cause a rise in debt service costs, thus exacerbating budget deficits. Countries with high levels of public debt often allocate a significant portion of their budgets to servicing such debt. An aging population, or other demographic changes, also lead to increased social services and healthcare spending, and this contributes to increased budget deficits. For example, many developed countries face the challenges of an aging population, putting pressure on their pension systems and healthcare services. Natural disasters, public health crises, or military conflicts can also strain a government's budget, leading to deficits. For instance, when Hurricane Katrina hit the United States in 2005, the government had to allocate significant funds for emergency response and recovery efforts, contributing to a budget deficit. In summary, A government deficit can be caused by a number of factors, including economic downturns and rising unemployment, decreased consumer spending, increased government spending and fiscal stimulus, high interest payments and rising interest rates, demographic factors, as well as unplanned emergencies. Recognizing and addressing these factors can help governments manage their budgets more effectively and maintain fiscal stability. Have you ever wondered who lends the government money? In other words, who are government's creditors? Well, when a government needs to borrow money, it doesn't simply go to a single bank and ask for a loan. Instead, it borrows from a diverse group of creditors, including the following: domestic investors. This includes individuals, households, businesses, and financial institutions within the country who purchase government bonds or securities. Foreign investors. Foreign governments, foreign banks and financial institutions, and sometimes foreign individuals can also lend money to a government by purchasing its bonds or securities. International organizations. Entities like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and regional development banks also provide loans or assistance to governments facing financial difficulties. Commercial banks. A regular commercial bank may also lend money to governments through the purchase of government bonds or by providing loans directly to the government. Central banks. The country's central bank may also lend money to the government by purchasing government bonds or providing loans. Lastly, sovereign wealth funds. Some countries have sovereign wealth funds that invest in government bonds issued by other countries, thus providing a source of funding for those governments. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, you can show your support by pressing that like button below this video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You can also share this video with your family and friends via WhatsApp or on your social media by pressing the share button. Now, getting back to the topic of government debt. Is there a limit to what the government can borrow? In other words, is there such a thing as too much government debt? Well, here's a tricky part. There's no hard and fast rule on what constitutes too much debt. A healthy economy can handle some level of debt. Some developed governments can even handle high debt levels. However, these very high debt levels can push out private investment, raise interest rates, and limit the government's ability to respond to future crises. So, in order to ensure that a country does not incur too much debt, several countries have debt limitation laws in place. This is known as a debt ceiling, or a debt limit, or a borrowing limit. A debt ceiling is a statutory limit imposed through government legislation on how much debt a government can incur. It serves as a restriction on the total amount of money the government is allowed to borrow to cover its expenditures. The debt ceiling limit is usually set as percentage of gross domestic product, or GDP. However, in a few instances, this limit may be expressed as an absolute amount. Once the debt ceiling is reached, the government cannot commit to any more debt without the approval of a legislative body. In conclusion, government deficits and government debt are complex issues which need to be managed carefully. While some government debt is manageable, government need to ensure that they keep it under control to ensure long-term economic health. Do you think that government debt in your country is a major problem? And if so, what should your government do to ensure its debt levels do not escalate? Let us know by leaving us a comment below this video. With that, we've come to the end of this video. So, thank you for watching. For more on public administration and public finance, please take time to check out our other videos under this channel. This is where we discuss various topics relating to public administration, public management, as well as the management of the public sector, including the running of government. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content. And remember to turn on the notification button to make sure that you don't miss out when we post new videos. You can also connect with us by following us on social media at ConsultKano. And continue the conversation by leaving us a comment or tagging us on social media using the hashtag ConsultKano. Thank you again for watching. Join us again next time for another video. Until then, please check out these other videos. Kano Consultants. For professional advice you can trust.